Hey guys, this is Kevin Kim with Precision Powerlifting Systems. I'm going to do a quick little squat start technique video. So a couple of things first, and these are really common that I see, is one, hand placement. Everybody wants to squish their hands in so tight. The problem with this is you're not really creating tension. You're just kind of squishing everything together. You want your arms in a position, think of doing like a pull down with the bar on your back, so you can really get tight, pulling that bar down. You can get that upper back tight and you can get good extension through the back. That's number one. Number two, a lot of lifters put the bar too low on their backs. Now don't get me wrong, some lifters are able to put it really low and have good success doing that. But it requires a ridiculous amount of mobility, not just in the shoulders, but also the elbows, to be down at the bottom like that and maintain a good chest position. So what we want is we want the bar on the top of the rear delts and our hands in a position where we can actually create good tension on the barbell. The other thing that I'm going to go over here is when we're actually getting set up, how to create tension. I don't know where this started from, but this like squeezing your ass before you start a squat doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because you're going to extend your hips to then have to flex them again. You're creating an entirely new, an extra movement basically. And like, you know, strength is displayed. It's not just like your central nervous system and your muscle mass and all of that coming together. It's how well you're able to optimize torque within an actual movement pattern. Like that's part of the coordination piece. So if we're pushing our hips forward to push them back, like we're not really optimizing torque, and we're creating greater moment arms in places that they just don't need to be. And we're not going to be tight. You're not going to extend to then be really tight to flex your hips, go down and load the hamstrings well. So for me, I start my middle finger on the rings, because that's kind of where I would be with the lat pull down. And I'm going to place the bar on the top of my rear delts. So not too low. Like you'll have a lot of lifters that'll be in this position here. You can see what this is doing to my hand position. I can't really pull down on the bar very well. But if I move the bar up on my rear delts, on the top of my rear delts, I can really, you can see me pulling down on that bar and it's not going anywhere. It's really sucking it in. So of course the one, the adjust. When we're here, I'm already driving my feet, my knees, my hips out. I'm squeezing my upper back. I'm pulling the bar down. I'm driving my head back. But the other thing is I'm setting in a lower back arch. So you can see how my hips are behind the bar in this position. And then when I take my breath, it's just a small breath of air into the belly. And then I push out into my obliques to kind of fill that intra-abdominal pressure. We're not trying to flex the abs. Like that's a terrible cue, because we literally need to stay extended. Our ribs need to stay extended so that this bar stays over the middle of our feet. So we want the hips behind and slight lower back extension. And everything that I said before, pushing out on the knees, we're pushing out on the feet, the hips, the breath. And as we go down, the first movement, this is what you'll see a lot of times. The knees driving forward, and we're not loading the hips, we're just loading the quads. And I think part of the problem when we're doing that is lifters are trying to stay too vertical in the torso. The chest has to lean forward a little bit in order to maintain that good position. But as I'm going down, as the hips are going back, the chest is coming, and I'm driving my collarbone hard through the bar. So that first action, I'm in that same position that I just showed there. It should be knees out. So see how my hips are going back and my collarbone's going up, but my knees are still stacked over my ankles. And we should try to keep the shins as vertical as possible throughout the entire lift. Towards the bottom, depending on where your foot position is, the knees will come forward. And this isn't a knees over your toes is going to increase injury thing. It's a decrease in performance. You may lift more like that, but it becomes very quad dominant in that type of position. And we want the hips, the hamstrings to work with the quads and the back muscles so that you can lift the most weight over the course of time. With that said, it doesn't mean we should negate the quads in the squat. Like we actually do we might do high bar close stance. We do a lot of close stance squatting to make sure that we are hitting the quads. We use a lot of pin squats. But we want all of the muscles to work together and for them to have the greatest leverage to lift the most weight over a period of time. And if we're actually loading those hips and hamstrings in the squat, it's going to carry over to your deadlift a lot more. So like weightlifters might have very upright torsos and very knees driving forward in their squats, and they might have big squats, but they're not deadlifting. They're snatching and they're clean and jerking. So for those positions, they're very strong in those positions. But our sport is about a bigger total. So if we're loading the hips and the hamstrings On a squat, it's going to have greater carryover to our deadlift, and ultimately it'll give us a greater total. I also think you just get less nagging things when you do it that way. Your knees don't get as achy. With the grip out wider and creating the tension like that, your elbows don't get as cranky. Follow me on Instagram. It's KWK and our team, Precision Powerlifting Systems.